Welcome to the Braver Women Show. I'm Leanne C. Jones, your straight talking therapist and founder of Braver Women. I teach anxious LGBTQ plus women all over the world how to stop feeling insecure and start showing up courageously with more impact and power. Every episode is packed with proven, actionable strategies, lived experiences, and of course, my no-nonsense insights, so you can stop letting your emotions run the show and finally feel in control. And if you're tired of struggling with anxiety, self-doubt, unresolved trauma that's affecting your life and your relationships, or feeling like you're not enough, you don't have to figure it out alone. You'll hear real success stories from women in the Braver Breakthrough program, women who've gone from the anxious patterns of self-doubt to coming out and made life-changing shifts following their work with me. If you're a woman who's spent years hiding who you are because of family, religion, fear, or the weight of everything you might lose, then this episode is for you. If you're sitting on the sidelines, afraid to come out later in life, afraid to destroy what looks like a good life from the outside, but inside you're exhausted from pretending, keep listening. Today, I'm sharing the story of someone who's walked that very path and made it through. Nichole is a dedicated mum. She's 50, from Utah. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Utah is a deeply conservative state in the western part of the United States. And it's very well known for its strong religious roots, particularly within Mormonism. And that backdrop alone adds weight to the courage that it took for her to do what she's done. Nichole came to work with me for 3 months of focused therapy and mentoring during one of the most vulnerable transitions of her life, leaving her marriage to a man and choosing to live honestly after years of hiding that she's a gay woman. For a long time, she told herself that she could just stick it out for the kids, for the family, all to avoid causing pain. But deep down, she knew that she was disappearing and minimizing herself. And she came into the Braver Women therapy space wanting, in her words, all the pieces of love I've been told all my life aren't for me because I'm a gay woman. And what followed from our work together was nothing short of transformational. Now, Nichole's here with me and with you today to share how she's faced and overcame the paralyzing fear of disappointing her loved ones, the paralyzing fear of rejection from them, years of silence and self-doubt that left her really unsure of what it was that she wanted, but also was even allowed to want, religious guilt that taught her to hide, minimize, and question her worth, the deep inner conflict within her that started at 19, trying to outthink being gay, convinced that her sexuality would just disappear and go away. She also opens up about the really pivotal conversations that she had with the most important people in her life, including the one with her mother that she'd put off for years. That conversation, she says, changed everything. And it only happened because of the deeper work that she did with me in therapy. And in the midst of all of this, there were some lighter moments too. She talks about finally letting go of the wardrobe that never felt like her, and also laughing about the day she said goodbye to the dresses that no longer matched who she really is. She's done a remarkable, brave thing in her life after hiding it for so long. And in my opinion, she didn't just come out, she came home finally to herself. And today, after doing the therapeutic work and continuing to live that truth beyond our time together, she's living with passion, purpose, and pride, just as Braver Women was created to help her do. She's more confident, and she'll talk you through what she does differently now as a commitment to herself and her authenticity now for the rest of her life. So if you've been hiding behind roles, routines, or religion, trying to convince yourself that now's not the right time, let this conversation be the moment that you stop pretending that you're okay with shrinking. You are not wrong for wanting more. You're not wrong for wanting to be yourself, and you're not too late. But most importantly, you're not alone. This is Nichole's story. Let's get into it. Welcome, Nichole. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible podcast where we get to share your story with all the other women in the community and the listeners of the podcast. So, all the way from Utah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So let's just get started. Now, I've worked with you very closely over the past number of weeks and months, and it's been an incredible experience on both sides. But I know many people who don't know you will be interested to hear about you, a bit more about you, your life, how you identify, what you do, any hobbies that you have, any interesting facts that you'd like us to know.
Okay. Yeah. So I grew up in Maine, in the U.S., a little dairy farm, and moved to Utah as soon as I graduated from high school. Um, Realized I was gay at 19, but was still very much into the church that I had been brought up into and the teaching that that was a weakness.
Yeah.
So I've lived here in Utah since I was 18.
Yeah.
And married for 29 years, 5 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 29 years of marriage to a guy, right? Yeah.
Right. Right. To a man.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So from Utah, 5 kids, a husband, and over the past number of months, you've been working with me to transition into a life which, by all accounts, is something that you've been craving for so many years. And we're just going to talk about your story, Nichole, because I know that there's a lot of women in our community who come out later in life, and the confusion and the worry and the difficulty in navigating that process for all involved is something that we're just going to touch on. And hopefully your story will inspire them to recognize that it is possible to live your life as the truest version of who you are. And yeah, I can't wait to help you share it. So let's just go back to you, Nichole, when you were 19. You say you first realized that you were gay then. What was going on inside of you? Just describe that experience, what it was like for you.
So at 19, I went to college. Fell madly in love with a roommate that I had, but would not speak it, would not acknowledge it, because I was still believing that it was a weakness, and so it was that mindset that I carried for many years, even into my marriage. Because at 22, that's when I met Dennis, my now ex-husband. He was fun, he was nice, and I thought, okay, I can marry him, overcome this while I work to overcome this. And then I thought that I really would overcome it. Yeah, that was my mindset at that time.
Goodness me. So what was happening? I mean, what was happening inside of you? I mean, I know that you say you come from a religious background, and being different and being queer was regarded as a weakness, but also a sin.
Right.
What was that like? So talk to us about your religion if you're happy to, and what was that like for you growing up?
Yeah. So I was raised in the LDS church, Mormons, and when I was younger, the teachings, like during the 80s and things, when I was growing up, that being gay was a choice and it was a sin. It was a sinful choice, um, and uh, and and my family was all about that religion. That was life. That's what we did, and so even though I should have known that I was queer when I was young, I didn't realize it because I was so absolutely sure that being queer was a choice. And so when I was 19, early 20s, they kind of changed their teachings on that maybe people are born that way, but you can still overcome it. It's a weakness. It's a sin. You can overcome it. And so, that was my mindset for years.
Did you truly believe that your sexuality was a weakness and was a sin?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did for a long time.
How did you how I'm curious. So what was that like knowing that you had these feelings for women,
Mm.
but then internalizing that as some sort of weakness? What was it like to be you doing that?
Yeah, it was difficult because I beat myself up all the time. It was, yeah, I would feel like I was failing
Yeah.
all the time, just, um, just beating myself up all the time that I was weak,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I couldn't overcome it, and, um, yeah, just that negative talk and negative belief about myself a lot.
And so
Yeah.
what was the impact of that on you? So from 19 up until how many years later did it all start to spiral and become unbearable?
Yeah, until 40, I lived from 19 to age 40 where I just couldn't take it anymore. It was, um, it was really difficult because I hid, I withdrew. I felt like a hypocrite, a liar, because even though I kept trying to overcome it, I couldn't.
Yeah.
So I was still living as a straight woman. And, and so, yeah, it just ruins, it ruined my confidence. It
Yeah.
really did because I would just beat myself up all the time
Yeah.
and just, yeah,
What did
feel
you do? What was going on inside of you when you were beating yourself up? Like what was that like?
oh, it would just be negative, a self-talk about just how weak I was,
Mm.
um, that I should be stronger, and then I'd pour myself into scriptures, prayer, like everything that I would try to compensate and try to overcome. I couldn't, and so it was just a cycle. It was just a cycle doing that. Yeah.
Did you have anyone to talk to, or did you have to keep all of this in?
I didn't know, I didn't want to talk to anybody about it because I felt it was my personal weakness that I should be able to overcome, and so I tried to do it by myself for years and years, and then at age 40 was when I was just, I'm not overcoming this,
Yeah.
it's not going away, I'm not beating this, and the weight of it just really, really started to get to me, so that's when I started talking to, certain family members. I told a couple of sisters,
Yeah.
a couple of close friends,
Uh-huh.
um, and then that was when I told my husband as well. So when I was age 40,
Yeah.
I told him that I was attracted to women. No,
What
not
message
that.
did you use? How was that? Because I know so many women out there just think, oh my goodness, I'm not ever going to be able to get myself into a place where I can sit my husband down or anyone in my family and say the words that completely are the opposite to the life I've been living and y-
Right,
your perception of who I am.
right. Yeah, we had gone for a walk, and he told me quite often that he had me on this pedestal. That I never did anything right. Just tell me something, he said, that make you, you know,
Yeah.
more human, like real, and so we were talking and we were walking along and I said, well, I'm attracted to women. I'm only attracted to women.
Mm.
And he just thought for a moment and he said, well, what's your type? And then we just kind of talked about things and that was the start of being, um, more authentic, I still thought that I could stay married, um, and just not give in to that.
Mhm.
Um, and, raise the kids and just stick it out. That's what I was planning on 10 years ago, 12 years
So
ago.
what was your husband's reaction when you said that, look, I'm only attracted to women?
It was, he wasn't angry. He wasn't upset. He just wanted to understand. He wanted to know,
Yeah.
um, like I said, what my type was and
Yeah. Yeah.
things like that. And we kind of joked around and back and forth like that.
Do you
Yeah.
think at that early stage that he accepted it when you
Yeah. He, eh, it's funny because when we were first married, I asked him if there's anything that, any of the kids could ever do or something that would make him that he'd really struggle with.
Yeah.
And he said having a gay kid.
Wow.
And so that's why it took me so long to come out to him. I didn't know what he would react like, but he responded well, and we have 2 gay sons.
Mm.
it just opened his heart. He loves each of us. He understands
Yeah.
just who we are. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, isn't it? So many people out there are just products of their conditioning, and that conditioning can make people feel scared and have those judgments until the reality of life shows up and gives them the experience that they've been dreading, and they find that I don't need to react like this. It's okay.
Yeah. 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 So,
Okay. And so you've had all this turmoil for all of your life, your young life, recognizing that you were different, try to squash it down, try to battle it, trying to pour yourself into your religion even more, and trying, in your words, do better and beat it. But this had a significant impact on your emotional and your mental health, didn't it? Are you happy to talk to us about what you were going through, Nichole? What it was that was really the pinnacle for you to think, I can't do this anymore. I have to do something about how I'm operating and what I'm doing internally and how I'm feeling.
right. Yes. So, for years, like I said, I was just trying to overcome it. And, and it wasn't really until I was talking to my gay son and, telling him, just be faithful, you can do this, you'll find someone.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he said, Mom, I can't be with someone. I can't be with a woman physically.
Yeah.
And that's when I stopped and realized what I had been doing all of these years was I was just disconnecting uh, with intimacy in particular. I would just disconnect and fantasize about women and things like that. And so it was a real disconnect
Yeah.
throughout my marriage. You know, especially during those times. And so, and that made me think, well, if I don't want this for him, you know, why would God want it for me? And that really kind of set me free from that thinking that I have to be faithful, and then I put the religion aside and said, no more. I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
And, yeah,
And so just talk to us, because we worked together for about 3 months in total.
yeah,
And what was going on inside of you before you decided to reach out to me and to Braver Women?
yeah. I knew I wanted to get divorced. I knew it was just eating me up. I wanted to live true to myself and get right with myself. And, but I wasn't quite sure what I needed to do. I knew I needed help. I'd never had therapy before or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I was just on Instagram and you popped up in Braver Women. And then I went to Facebook and started watching some of the videos. And I was like, oh, this is what I need. She could help me. And so then I reached out to you and explained what was going on. And yeah. And so we started working together. And that's the month I told him that I wanted a divorce.
Yeah.
Not if we get divorced, but I want a divorce. Yeah. Became very clear about that.
Yeah. And so if you think back, what was it about Braver Women that really talked to you and made you feel that this could be something that would be life-changing for you?
Yeah, when I was watching, your videos and, when you talked about, being braver, overcoming the self-doubt
Oh.
and anxiety, things like that, everything that I was feeling and experiencing, I just knew that I needed that,
Yeah.
I needed that help.
Yeah.
And,
So that you were experiencing was the complete opposite of confidence and bravery, all of this self-doubt. What
yeah.
was the most troublesome thing that you feel you just couldn't get past, that you weren't able to process or deal with?
That was, that was that was enlightening. It was this fear of rejection that I didn't even know existed, that I didn't know I was feeling, when it came to my mother, that was what was holding me back.
Yeah.
Was, talking to her about this and just telling her straight out who I am,
Yeah.
that I was divorced and that I was a lesbian. Yeah.
Yeah. So this, interestingly, and I know you won't mind me saying this, Nichole, that when you came to me, you just thought you had just a couple of things that you wanted to sort out via therapy. But when it came to it, this self-doubt was spilling into all areas of your life and making you question yourself. And you recognized that there was anxiety at play in nearly every area of how you were showing up.
Right.
What was that like for you when you recognized that?
That was incredible. Just to realize that I'd always been looking for problems, scanning, um, just filled with that doubt, just not knowing and not trusting myself
Yeah.
in any situation, just
Yeah.
always looking for a problem and
Yeah.
yeah, being scared, being anxious.
Yeah, holding yourself back and not doing things. I remember you saying to me, "I don't wanna do that in case I fail."
Right.
Talk to
Yeah.
us about that because this was a lifelong pattern for you, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It started quite young. Just I I I I thought that if I just did not try something,
Yeah.
then I was still succeeding. But if I tried something and failed, then I was a failure. It tied into sports. It tied into every aspect of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, schooling, everything.
Mm. And how do you feel that this was affecting your being authentic and becoming divorced and being able to be yourself and live your life on your own terms?
Right. When you're filled with fear, yeah. When I was filled with fear, I just couldn't. I just couldn't see
Mhm.
how I could do that, how I could get divorced, how I could be on my own and live as a gay woman. That fear just kept me back, just
Yeah. Yeah.
held me in.
What were you scared of? What was it that you were scared of the most?
Oh, I was scared of rejection, from certain family members, um, and scared of failure.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were the things I was scared of. Yeah.
So if you think about that fear of rejection from family members,
Yeah.
and what was it that you were imagining would happen if you were to be rejected?
I I couldn't see my life without those family members.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't until I watched your video about heartbreak
Uh-huh.
where it actually clicked that that's what was holding me back was just this fear of rejection, and I would still survive even if they did reject me. My life would go on. I would be okay.
Yeah.
Once that clicked, then I was like, I'm gonna go right now and talk to her and that just changed everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I know that you won't mind me saying that when you first came to work with me, um, we obviously have a real breakthrough session, find out what's been going on, and then I start to assess your patterns, the patterns that you were doing that were accentuating fear-based behavior. When you had that level of awareness and then were given a toolkit to work with Nichole,
Mm.
what was the most profound changes for you? What did you start to notice the most?
Okay. So yeah, the everyday work, it changed my thinking um, about trying to find problems, problem solve in the future, worrying about the future, um, because I was able to just tell myself, you can do this. You've done it. You can do it no matter what. And so just changing those little thoughts every day with you and being accountable and reporting and things that really helped because it was long enough that it did change the way I showed up in my thinking.
Mm.
Yeah.
What did that allow you to do then in that case? Because I know that I remember you messaging me and you said, "Leanne, I've got it." And this was after about 3 weeks of undoing heavy lifting in our sessions, Maya, around these fears, these ideas, these fear-based ideas, these runaway thoughts, and some of these real visceral emotions that you've been carrying your whole life. I got to about week 3 or 4, and you knew what you needed to do.
Right.
How effective do you think what you'd learned so far helped you to be able to take those steps to have that conversation with your mum? And we'll come on to that in a moment. But just
Yeah.
talk to us about what that experience was like for you.
Just, by changing that thinking that I was doing every day,
Yeah.
um, I didn't have to I wasn't worrying about what was gonna happen when we did have
Yeah.
the conversation. I wasn't going into it looking for a problem, being defensive, it just changed my whole outlook on that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so talk to us about the conversation that you had with your mum, because this was one of the big things that you were scared of the most, wasn't it? Just you and Dennis had that sorted, you knew what you wanted to do, and then the only thing that was really holding you back was this conversation that you wanted to have with your mum to be able to explain, "Hey, this is who I am, and this is what's going to be happening."
Right. Yeah, I went over there, uh, and I just sat down with her, and I told her, I said, I've tried to have this conversation before, but I want you to know that I am gay. I have always been gay, and we talked about my past and at 19 and things like that, um, and also about the church. We just had a good conversation, and she sat and listened, um, and then I told her we would be getting divorced. Dennis and I would be getting divorced,
Yeah.
and she said, I don't understand it. I don't understand being gay, but I love you, you know. Um, and so all of those fears that I'd carried all those years of her not loving me and disowning me,
Yeah.
you know, that was wasted energy.
Yeah. And do
Yeah.
you think that when you approached that conversation, Nichole, with your mom, that you were definitely better equipped in terms of how to be able to deal any potential rejection? What was your mindset going into that conversation, would you say?
Yeah. So my mindset was that I just I have to get right with myself, even if she does reject me. It was prepared. I was prepared to, if she rejected me, I would be okay. I would deal with it. I would deal with it. And that I'd be okay because I was right with myself finally after all these years. Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. How long did you held off having that conversation?
Oh, um, gosh, I had tried to approach it a couple of times and her reactions weren't well, so I just would pull back and not go any further, not talk about it.
Yeah.
And so it had been years.
Yeah.
Been years.
Yeah. But for you
Yeah.
to finally think, well, it's okay. Really so certain and so comfortable with myself that it doesn't matter what happens. I know, yeah, I'm going to be able to get through this and to come out the other side, irrespective of whether I've got her support or not.
Right.
Obviously, that would be the worst case scenario. But as it happened,
Yeah.
the way that you handled it and you approached it, how would you say that you handle it differently? Because I think you're playing this down a little bit. You absolutely had some incredible moments and realizations during that conversation. And what do
Yeah.
you remember and recognize now looking back?
Um, it was emotional, but I wasn't reactionary.
Yeah.
Before I would have been um, reactionary, even to some of the things she said. It was difficult for her. She doesn't understand it.
Mhm.
And she, had said some things that, I don't know where you're going to end up. What if you're wrong about this when you die? What if you're wrong about this?
Yeah.
And she said some things. Well, maybe that's why you were given two gay sons so you guys could be together. Just some things like that I would have probably before just reacted to. But I didn't. I was able to just stay calm and and realize those are her beliefs, those are her opinions,
Yeah.
but they're not mine.
Yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely. That gift that you don't need, you can have it back. Thank you very much.
right. Exactly.
People impact
And
that.
that's what helped me. Yeah, I mean, just that that you taught me was that, about other people's opinions, not carrying them. You don't have to accept them. You don't have to carry them with you. That was huge before I went into that conversation. Uh, and again, the what ifs, just deal with.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, absolutely. And so you mentioned earlier that at one stage during your journey to authenticity that you'd considered with your husband just staying put and you living life as a gay woman and him living his life as your ex-husband, but under the same roof for the sake of finances and for the kids and all of that.
Right.
And that was going to be the way forward for you, wasn't it? Until things started to change and alter.
Yeah.
What What advice would you give to anybody? Because I know there's a lot of women out there who take this strategy rather, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I understand and appreciate that everybody has to do what's right for them. But what was it that changed your attitude towards this particular approach of staying together?
Yeah, didn't sit well with me to keep living, with him as friends, not being intimate, not having intimacy, but just being friends and going through the motions, I didn't want that. I want intimacy and connection with the person I wanna be with the woman I wanna be with.
Yeah.
That's huge for me, and so, suggestions from other people and him even of staying together and then going in and, having an affair or just being with women. I didn't want that. I want to be with someone, completely. So, I need to divorce. We need to get divorced.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
How accepting was Dennis of that prospect? Because I know it's not been easy. We're talking about it like it's all just happened, but
Yeah. He had a really, really difficult time. Um, um, he was super emotional. He wanted to still, um, date, to hang out, um, to just keep going the way we had been going for years. Said he would never date, he would never get over me. He would, it was a lot of emotions, and sometimes anger and things like that would pop up. But yeah, the whole grieving process, I really seen that with him.
Mm.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, I see a lot of women, and a lot of women come to me with this idea and this concept that we can do this as friends, we can just get by and we can do this and we can come out the other side as friends until I helped you and coached you through this idea. So looking back, what really helped you to just bring this reality into the relationship to allow that disconnection, but in a way that allowed you both to accept what needed to happen?
Yes, it was, when we talked about how unrealistic it is to think that my new partner and his new partner, that we're all gonna just go and have activity and go see our families together, all of it. It was just unrealistic, unrealistic expectation of continuing on
Yeah.
as best friends. Needs to we can be friendly without being best friends and in each other's pocket all the time. Yeah.
What advice would you give to any of the women in your shoes, Nichole, finding themselves in this position that you've been
Mm.
in?
Uh, Definitely use concrete language, um, and how I almost had to I wasn't mean, but almost businesslike and showing him that, no, we're not going to be dating. We're not gonna be
Mm.
this is we're separating, we're divorcing, and being strong in that. Yeah.
Mm. And that's the thing. I think the prospect of disappointing and upsetting people is something that a lot of women in this position try to avoid. And what I want to say now, and it was something that we had to really work hard on together, wasn't it? That people are going to be disappointed. That's exactly how it's going to be. There's going to be sadness. There's going to be disappointment. There's going to be uncomfortable feelings. But that is not a reason to remain in a relationship that isn't right and isn't working anymore.
Yeah. He's out.
you not taking on the role to be responsible and take on that role to nurture people through pain and discomfort.
Right.
Well, how difficult was it for you to not move into that role, Nichole? How did you
Yeah.
do that?
Um, yeah, it was, um, at first, it was really difficult. It was because I did find myself getting pulled back in and going out and doing things. Um, but after after talking with you about that, just how difficult it just prolongs it and it makes it harder for him as well to move on, and he gets stuck, and that's not fair either. And so that really helped me just to be more concise and businesslike,
Yeah.
and that did help him. That did help. He he moved on faster than he would have if I had just yeah nurtured that part.
Mm.
Yeah,
What about the kids? Because you got 5 kids, right?
I have kids. Yeah,
And so how did you both navigate that journey with the kids to be able to help them feel more secure with what was going on?
yeah. The older kids, we just talked to them about what was. I mean, my older kids, they all knew that I was
How old
gay.
are they, Nichole?
My oldest is 28,
Yeah.
and then I have a 23-year-old, 22-year-old,
Yeah.
and a 16-year-old, and then my 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And so the older ones, they all knew, and even my 16-year-old, and they were all supportive. Um, you know, they knew and supported us. And then my little 12-year-old, and I talked to him about me being gay and that we were going to get divorced and things like that. He had a really hard time at first,
Yeah.
and it took him. It always takes him a few days to process
Yeah.
any change or anything new. And so his reaction at first was, "I wish you weren't gay,
Yeah.
and I wish you weren't getting divorced."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just let him talk about his feelings to me, and we would just explain things. And I kind of gave him the analogy of the eye color again. I'm like, it's not like me telling you to go change your eyes to green, and don't come back until you do. And he's like, I can't do that. And I was like, that's how it is with being gay. I can't change that I'm a lesbian, and I like myself as a lesbian.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then, and then the next day, he's like, Mom, I like you. I like you the way you are.
So learning to impart that level of safety and certainty to let your kids know that whatever happens, you're both still their parents, you still love them, and just finding really creative ways to explain that it isn't a choice, it's not something that you have a decision on, has helped accelerate his understanding of what's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, really has.
And I know before we started this chat that you told me something really lovely. And would you be happy to share that?
Yes, yeah. Just a couple of days ago, he came to me. One of his older brothers had given him his cute little rainbow pillow, and he came to me and gave it to me and said, "Mom, I love you just the way you are." And so I have that on my bed. But yeah, just he loves me, he accepts me, and he tells me that quite often
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Finds ways.
That's
I'm okay.
incredible.
Just the way I am. Yeah.
So your kids have that personal safety inside of them and that sense of security that mum and dad aren't going anywhere. They're just going to be living different lives. This through our parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge.
And so the logistics of the family home, because I know that you were very worried about having to find somewhere, having to sort out finances and all of that. If you're happy to talk about it,
Yeah, I was. I
how
was
did you
really.
get around that, Nichole?
Uh, we at first we were going to do nesting and build an apartment, um, and um, working for me, I get stuck in that black and white thinking sometimes that it has to be this way or it's not going to work. And what I've learned from our sessions and just from life is that it doesn't have to be that way. There's always another road, another pathway,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what's happened. We've changed the plan several times, and I'm okay with that. I know I'll just deal with whatever comes up.
Mhm.
And so Um, and so that we've changed our mind about the apartment.
Mm.
Um, I'm going to live here with the kids in the house for the next couple of years until Ava graduates.
Yeah.
And he's finding a townhome for himself, and he'll be moving out soon.
Yeah.
And and finances. Yeah, I was worried about that at first, but we've worked that out as well.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll be okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so, talk to us about that black and white thinking, because that was very, very evident. So when you first came to me, Leanne, I just need to get this job that I've started. I need to qualify and then I'll be okay. And all of these eggs being thrown into one basket. And if that didn't work out, where was that going to leave you? When we started to examine this black and white rigid thinking, we realized that it was very much a fear response, that if it's not one, it's the other, and leaving you in a state of despair if you weren't able to get the outcome that you'd set your intentions on, leaving no room for flexibility or middle ground.
Yeah.
How often had you lived like that? How often had you been just operating like that out of awareness?
Yeah, it was my whole life. Everything was black and white. When you grow up in a religion, everything is black and white, um, like that. You either do it or you don't, or you right or wrong. Everything is kind of black and white like that. And so, when it came to this divorce, I had it in my head. I had a plan.
Yeah.
I needed to get an education, training done, and then I could be self sufficient. And I couldn't get a divorce until I was self-sufficient. And then I got into the training, didn't like the program. So changed gears on that,
Yeah.
but still went ahead with the divorce. And yeah, realized I'm going to be fine. I don't have to do it that one way. There's lots of different ones.
So there's a lot more space for creativity and a lot more room for choice and freedom.
Right.
What's that like? What's that like for you now?
It's I can breathe. I'm not so full of fear, anxiety, thinking that I have to succeed in this one thing. Just opening my mind to realizing that there are just lots of different options, and if something doesn't work out, something else will present itself, um, and I'll be okay. It's just not worrying and not getting stuck in that mindset that of worry and fear
Mm-hmm.
of future. Yeah.
So what did you find, Nichole, was, if you had to sum up your experience of the sessions that we had, the program that you came on board and did with me, what were the most powerful things that you experienced? What was it like? How would you describe it for any woman out there curious about coming on board?
Mm. It was incredible, man. Just the change that happens so fast from doing what you recommended I do every day. It was it was incredible how quick my thinking changed, and just being more confident and more sure of myself. How that changed my actions um and my life. Incredible.
Yeah. What was the most powerful part of it for you? What did you find the most helpful and the most powerful?
The two things that you told me, and then I told myself every day, basically, just the the what ifs. I'll just deal with it, and telling my mind that over and over and over again, so that I didn't worry about the future. My mind stopped coming up with scenarios and problems for the future, and also people's opinions are just that's their opinion, and it's I don't have to take it. I don't have to carry that with me. Those two things those two things helped me the most with, and it still helps me. I still think of those things almost daily now.
And obviously, we've explored a lot during hypnosis and other forms of therapy during our time together, as well as the daily accountability and just keeping you on track with your progress each day. What was that like for you?
Um, I had never had therapy or hypnotherapy or anything like that. That was incredible to to experience that, and how that just helped. because when I came to you, I wasn't even sure what emotions I was feeling. I was on autopilot. I couldn't describe to you what I was feeling. I didn't know where my body, like I didn't pay attention to any of that until I came to you, you know?
What was going on for you? So I know that was very much this level of awareness, this heightened self-awareness that you had about who you are, how you operate, how you think, how you show up based on some of these fears that had not been addressed, and even just expressing the emotions, all of that work and that mental energy to protect difficult emotions resulted in you living a half life
Yeah.
and just enough to get by.
Checked out.
What was that like for you then?
Yeah. It was interesting because I didn't even realize that I was doing that, that I had just checked out and was just on autopilot. I didn't even know that until I started working with you and then, um, experiencing, uh, understanding emotions more and feeling that and taking the time to be aware, slowing down and really paying attention to my thinking, my feelings.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to experience that, to know that I had not been
Yeah.
really with it.
Thing. So some people are raised in environments where feelings aren't talked about. They're not even acknowledged. And it really does just result in just operating, having a conveyor belt life, doing all the things that are expected of you with no room for anything different or outside of the norms. And that can just lead to just that feeling of unfulfillment and invisibility and unworthiness and fear.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so having moved through this transition with over the past number of months, what do you know? What's your attitude towards emotions and feelings now, and your own awareness of who you are and how you are?
Yeah. I I'm not afraid to cry. Before I was afraid to cry, I would hold that in as much as I could. Um, I'm not afraid to acknowledge or have conversations that are hard. Before I would avoid, um, and I would shut down and avoid. And so I'm not doing that. I carry on conversations and have hard conversations with people, and yeah, I'm not hiding. I'm not hiding, and I'm not withdrawn into myself like I did before. It's been pretty incredible.
Yeah. And so what if people what have your family or friends noticed about you since you finished working with Braver Women?
Oh, that I am more confident, um, that I do share my thoughts and opinions,
Yeah.
um, and the connection, the confidence. There's one thing I would like people to know too is just that when you're more confident, you can connect with people. It's so much better. I make eye contact, I smile, I have conversations. And when I'm not confident, when I wasn't confident, I really did just withdraw, and did not make connections with people like I do now. It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. So how powerful is that? What does that mean for your life then?
Right. I can connect with anyone whenever I'm out and about, even if it's just a few moments. It's looking people in the eyes and smiling and being able to carry on a conversation
Mhm.
without any self doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know there's in very many different cultures and different parts of the world, women still have this place where they have to be insecure and seen as not important and not allowed to have their opinions, not allowed to have their views, or seen as bossy if they do. What do you think about that now?
Mm, yeah. It just even looking back to the religion that I was raised in, um, uh, women pretty much are kept at a certain level, and um, yeah, just breaking free from that mindset alone has been amazing. Yeah, women we deserve to have our voices heard. We deserve to live
Yeah.
who we are. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was going to say to you, Nichole, having come out the other side of therapy and been through this transition where before you were very shy, you would conform, would people please, would do all the things that you thought were expected of you, to now breaking the norm and doing something that's best for you and your family and living your life how you want, not how you've been expected. If you think about that, what is that like for you to be able to experience that freedom? And what do you recognize as you look back to how you were before?
It's night and day. Just this freedom that I do feel, and just this knowledge that I can be myself, and just being right with myself for the first time in my life. I feel that I am who I've always been, and I'm not hiding. And that's just I can't tell you the relief that brings to me, um, and just the happiness and joy that brings. That I'm myself for the first time
Yeah.
in my life. I just can't tell you that.
It's just
Yeah.
incredible. I know you've just been just amazing to work with. And if you think about how many women, it only takes one pebble to create a massive ripple in a lake. And I wonder how many women that you would be able to inspire with this attitude just by listening to this podcast and just being aware of how you've done it, and just having that hope and that inspiration that there's someone out there who's done what I really want to do. I wonder, what's your thoughts about women living authentically? How important do you think it is for gay women to live authentically?
I think that is the number one most important thing that we can do. It really is. I've heard over and over again that people on their deathbed, that's the number one regret they have, is not being authentic,
Yeah.
not living an authentic life. And I did not want that. I didn't want to get there and say, "Oh, why didn't I act?" I didn't even want to wait another 10 years or 5 years. And it just eats you up. There's something that if you're not living authentically, it just weighs on you. It's such a weight. So to get rid of
Yeah, so many people, I mean, authentic seems to be this buzzword that's just branded around, and I think it loses its meaning a lot, which is why sometimes I like to say, well, let's have a look at what that word means to you and really break it down, because rather than just using a term to describe one concept, if you think about the word authentic, being authentic as a gay woman, and you consider that now, knowing the journey that you've been on to where you are now, how would you put into words what does it mean to you, being authentic as a gay woman now?
Hmm. Just showing up, even in daily conversations, but social media, e- everything, just being myself, being a gay woman, and not trying to hide it, not trying um, to not show it. It's I I just can't describe really how freeing it is, to be who I am, and um, to talk about it and not hide it. Um, yeah, I just can't describe it enough.
How
Yeah.
do you show up with your queerness? How do you let people know that you're gay? How do you celebrate that each day?
Um, well, with my family, I'm with my family most of the time, and so they know. We talk about it all the time. We talk about me having a relationship with a woman, uh, and social media. I came out after I had the conversation with my mom that was holding me back. Then I was just like, everybody. I want everybody to know, that this is who I am.
Yeah.
I've always been, and I explained that I'd always been gay,
Yeah.
and kind of explained the whole thing. Um, and so even just that, just showing up and talking about it. And if anybody has questions,
Mhm.
I talk. I've talked to a lot of people who do have questions. A lot of straight people and family members who did have questions and do have questions. So yeah, just
If you think about the impact that you've made within your own community, with your own circle of friends, within your own family, and if you think about undoing generational ideas about how life needs to be, and you really have just come out as a trailblazer. And I was very fortunate enough to be able to see some of those comments when you did that, and it was just incredible to see you blooming as a flower that had been hidden. It's almost like you were placed in the sunlight and suddenly your leaves and everything started to shine and show. What kind of response did you get from doing that?
people respond very positively on the whole. From if for people to come out and be themselves, and to live authentic, they respond to that. It's been positive.
Yeah.
I haven't had even, I don't think I've had one person say anything hateful. They may not understand it, but they haven't been hateful. It's been a very positive experience, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you think about that, and this is the key to overcoming fear, is being brave enough to break a pattern of what you've always done, show up, do something different, and realize that nothing bad's going to happen. And then it allows you to feel more confident in doing more of that, taking those risks that ordinarily in the past, there's no way you would ever have come out so publicly and so openly like that.
Oh no. Yeah. There's no way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you think about that and what you do differently now, what do you do differently to keep yourself in a mentally well place, to be able to acknowledge your emotions and allow yourself to feel emotionally well? Habits and patterns do you have now following on from our work together?
Yes. I do take time for myself.
Yeah.
I still have in my mind every day,
Mhm.
what if I will deal with it. The people presenting their opinions, again, those are the things that I carry with me every day. Taking time to myself, listening to music, paying attention to what I'm thinking, feeling, doing activities that calm me, and enjoying nature, just things that I need to do for myself to be healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about just being yourself? Because I know part of being, within the queer community, just presentation is huge. To be able to feel authentic and well with not hiding. I know there's a lot of women out there who are frightened to get their hair cut short, who are frightened to dress in a boyish way, and feel like they've got to conform. And have you noticed that you have changed any of that?
I've kicked all of my dresses to the curb. I've never liked dresses. I hated them as a girl.
Yeah.
And so that is the one thing that I've gotten rid of, and I don't ever plan on putting on another dress. So everything else is the same. I keep my hair short. I wear cords or jeans, t-shirts, that type of thing. I've always done that, and that's just me. Yeah.
So I've never worn a dress. Can you imagine me in a dress?
No, I can't.
I ask everyone that question and they always say, no, there's no way I can imagine you in a dress, Leanne. I mean, I have worn a dress once, but oh my goodness me, it's definitely not something that it would feel very alien on me, that's for sure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Goodness me. And so let me ask you, Nichole, what's the proudest moment of your life?
Oh, wow. The proudest moment. Mm. Hmm. Honestly, it is talking to my mom. That was the biggest fear. And so to overcome the biggest fear that you have in your life, yeah, that's my proudest moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what Braver Women is all about is, some people associate bravery with life and death situations. And that's their definition of bravery. That fits right for them. But if you think about women who are different in a world that's been designed for straight people, irrespective of whether people think, oh no one's homophobic anymore, everyone's cool with it, they are not. There's pockets of people all over the world that make people feel scared and fearful for their safety, and being brave and doing something just feels threatening in such a profound way that it's enough to keep so many women out there in the closet, not coming out, not being themselves. If you think about that, just being able to have that conversation where it's just not something that you've ever imagined you doing with your mum, that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Knowing that you no longer have to navigate your life around that idea or that problem.
Right.
So if you think about it, what does bravery mean to you? Having been on this journey for you?
Yeah, bravery for me is uh, being authentic. To me, that really is. However you see yourself,
Yeah.
um, and living true to that, and getting right with yourself, and just taking the steps you need to take to do. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Nichole, this is just been such an incredible story. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I'm just going to ask you one more thing before I say goodbye to you. Say you had somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, what's it like working with Leanne? Why should I get on board with Braver Women?" What would you say to them?
I would say that it has been the most incredible experience of my life. It has been the most life-changing experience of my life because you give me the tools. You gave me the tools to make the changes in my thinking, which changed my actions, my life. Um, I would say, don't hesitate. Honestly, it's and it's incredible how fast those changes happen with you. Um, yes, just do it. Yeah, and Brave for Women community. What a great idea. What a great community. Around the world that we can come together and share our experiences and and be braver together.
Yeah,
It's wonderful.
it's so good. It's so good to hear you say that. Yes, that's right. And if for anyone listening to this, if you're not a part of the Braver Women community, I will put the link to join our private free Facebook community in the show notes. But I think it's so incredibly important to have that connection and to have that peer support and to have that guidance and that leadership and that beacon of hope and just that family, because that's the thing about the queer community. We may be living in all four corners of the globe, but we're certainly family. Doesn't matter where we go. We always look for the rainbow flag and look for the nearest gay bar. And it's almost like we're instant friends, aren't we? Because we're bound by our difference. That is our strength.
It is, and I've made some incredible friends on Braver community from all over. It's been the connection there is real, and it's not, it's not a dating site. It's people connecting in a real way and becoming friends. It's a beautiful community. I can't thank you enough, Leanne. Really.
You are more than welcome. You've been an absolute pleasure to work with, Nichole. It's been amazing watching you from the sidelines during the therapy and coaching, watching you grow, watching you develop, watching you approach your life bravely and just change those norms, change the dynamic of your family and give them hope that they don't have to stay rigidly attached to this idea. They can be themselves and show up and use the opportunity they have of life to just do what they want to do, to live with more passion, purpose, and pride, the very ethos behind Braver Women. So I'm really hoping that you stick around. Thank you so much for your very kind words and for agreeing to just share a bit of your story to inspire other women. Stories, when they're told in safe places, just are so healing and so validating for anyone who needs that help. So thank you so much. And I'm hoping that you remain as a braver buddy, as a mentor within the community, having been on the journey, being able to inspire other women, other female members. So any words of wisdom? Now, I always like to ask this question, just this. I said it, the last question was the last question, but this is definitely the last question. What what words of wisdom would you give from your life experiences so far to any woman out there who is it stuck in a rut with their life?
Yeah, that's how I was. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to reach out. If you need help, uh, reach out. It's there, and you can learn to change your thinking and your actions in your life. It's right there. Do it.
Nichole,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time and for your support, for ongoing support of me and what I do. It's just been an incredible experience. And Nichole, you are a braver woman. You really are.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you.